The Ballon d'Or nominees are an absolute joke. There are so many players that should have been picked but haven't been. What players do you think should have been selected?
Well, I think the main one that stands out is Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah,
I think he
100%.
definitely should have been in the nominees, and so with Mo Salah as well. Incredible numbers, and even Griezmann as an underrated shout.
Yeah.
I think he's also another player that should have been picked, and those three players mainly, in my opinion, definitely should have been in the nominees.
I just don't understand how they can't get in the top 30 when there are players that we will go on to in a minute, but Emiliano Martinez, Ademola Lookman, who have squeezed their way in there when those three have had fantastic seasons.
Exactly.
Griezmann, 30 goals and assists in the Liga and the Champions League for Atleti. Salah put up 39 goals and assists last season for Liverpool. Yes, it wasn't his best season in the Liverpool shirt. There's no two ways about it. He wasn't flashy at all times. He was sloppy quite a lot of the time, especially during the latter months. But
when you look at the names that are in there, there's no way Salah should be below them. And also another shout, Ollie Watkins.
Yeah.
Once again, how
arguably Premier League Player of the Season last campaign.
Exactly.
And he's not even picked.
Exactly. He's one of the most dangerous players in the Prem, and he's not even in the nominees. I'm not saying he should be winning it. I'm not even saying he should be top 10, but he should be in the nominees at least.
Yes, 110%. And like we said with Virgil van Dijk, Liverpool, they won that Carabao Cup because of Virgil van Dijk.
Literally.
He scored that goal in the final. He was playing with kids. Yet players like Ruben Diaz, William Saliba, who are very good defenders, have had good campaigns, but better than Van Dijk?
Not sure about that, mate.
So it seems like they've almost had an agenda against Liverpool players. I know I don't necessarily want to say it because I'm a Liverpool fan, but players like McAllister as well, who was fantastic for us last season, arguably our player of the season, was good for Argentina as well, won the Copa America. Where is he in this? Not even mentioned.
Not even seen, that's the thing. And Bernardo Silva as well.
Yeah,
another
great shout.
And also, Jeremy Frimpong from Leverkusen. Fantastic season. We see Grimaldo in there, so you'd think Frimpong would be in there. And if Frimpong's not in there, you'd think Trent would be in there. Neither of them are in there.
No, which is quite peculiar.
Exactly. Two of the best right-backs in the world aren't in there.
Well,
so I don't
Frimpong and
understand
Grimaldo, they put up similar numbers from wing-back last season.
Yeah.
They both were fantastic and integral pieces to that Leverkusen team, and Frimpong actually made more minutes at the Euros than Grimaldo.
Yeah.
I'm not saying necessarily he was better, because I don't watch Leverkusen week in, week out, but to put one in and not the other seems quite odd.
Well, it's like with the Ballon d'Or nominees in the past, you'd have Robertson and Trent, right? Because they're both integral to Liverpool. So you'd do the same with Leverkusen, you know, one of the best teams in Europe at the moment. You'd think you'd have both fullbacks in there, yet somehow Frimpong don't get in there. And we see a lot of names in there that we both don't think should be in there.
Well, and on top of that, this one, I know he didn't have the best season of his career, but he's still a proven player for Real Madrid, and that's Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Plays out of position week in, week out because of Vinicius, and he still puts up decent numbers.
Absolutely.
He's a big game player, a very technically skilled player, and he's not even mentioned.
Not even got a look in. And no one's even mentioned the fact that he's not in it as well. Like, he must be extremely underrated because he's not even mentioned in not being the nominees. Like, that to me makes no sense.
100%. Salah, Van Dijk, McAllister, Griezmann, Bernardo Silva, Ollie Watkins, Frimpong, Trent and Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 names there, I think. I'm not saying all 9 should have been included, but certainly at least 4 or 5.
Absolutely.
As we briefly touched upon, there are quite a few players who really shouldn't have been picked, or, well, certainly not over the ones we mentioned, but what players have been picked that you don't think deserve?
Well, I think the first one is Ademola Lookman. How on earth is that guy in the Ballon d'Or nominees? Is it because he scored a hat-trick against Europa League final?
That is a big achievement.
But that's because of one game. Like, he might have had a good season, I get that, but when we looked at the names we just mentioned, has he had a better season then? No. He's just turned up in the Europa League final. I mean, I remember when the guy was battling in the Premier League relegation for Fulham 2 years ago. Yeah. And now all of a sudden,
top 30 for the Ballon d'Or.
He's in the Ballon d'Or nominees. That to me makes no sense.
He did have a decent season in the Serie A. I think he got 11 goals, 7 assists, but
it's not too bad. But
I don't think over Salah, over Griezmann, Van Dijk, those sort of calibre of players who had fantastic seasons for their sides.
It's mental. And also Ruben Diaz, I think he's in because of his name. I'm not saying he had a bad season, but
he's a quality defender.
Absolutely, yeah. But I'm just saying, when you look at Diaz being in there, but then Van Dijk not.
Yeah, that's what annoys me the most. But
that makes no sense.
Do you not think that Diaz did have a good campaign, but because he had the trouble season the season prior, that it sort of took the light away from his last season?
Yeah, that is true. I do think he
was class.
Yeah, he did have a good treble season, and obviously it's very hard to replicate that. I get that. I'm not expecting him to replicate it, but I just think to the levels that, you know, of other defenders. I mean, you look at, you know, Van der Ven and Gabriel, right? Who've also performed exceptionally.
Sort of been on the same sort
of
par,
they've not been
same
too
level
far
as Diaz
off.
last season. Yeah.
People might laugh at that because Man City eventually won the league, and that is why he's in there, because they won the league, right? Which I get, I understand.
And he was decent at the Euros.
Yeah, and he was decent at the Euros, to be fair. But I think when you look at someone like Van Dijk who's not in there, I think that just to me is insane, because Van Dijk was arguably better in the Euros. I think he is.
I think he was the best defender in the Premier League last season.
I also agree as well. And if you don't think he is, you think he's below Saliba. You wouldn't ever put Diaz above Van Dijk based off last season. So the fact that Ruben Diaz is in there and Van Dijk's not makes no sense. And the fact that Lookman's in there over Salah makes no sense. You also got Martinez, Emiliano Martinez. Again, had a good World Cup. We're talking 2 years ago now.
Good Copa America though.
Good Copa America.
One of the standout
but
players.
how good was he in the Premier League season?
Is it
Ballon d'Or worthy? I don't know.
He's the only
I don't
goalkeeper on the list, and I know Alisson's a better keeper, and so is Courtois, but
Yeah.
Courtois was injured last season. Alisson was injured for not quite half the season, but almost half.
It makes sense, but I just personally, I don't know if he's good enough to be.
And is he better than those
In the
candidates
Ballon
that we mentioned?
That's the thing, like, because you don't have to swap a goalkeeper for a goalkeeper. Like,
No.
I'd rather have Frimpong in there
Over Emiliano Martinez.
and Griezmann in there over Martinez. And the same with Dani Olmo as well. I think obviously he had a lot of injuries, or he didn't play too many games, I think.
21 something in the German league last season for Leipzig, which isn't loads.
I know he started well at Barca, but we can't base it off, a few games at the start of the season. We're not
But he
basing it
was
off that.
fantastic at the Euros.
Very good at the Euros. I'll give him
Really
that.
good.
Yeah,
Really
I will
good.
give him that. But I just think that to put him in only based off the Euros when he hasn't had a particularly
He didn't have a
great
stellar campaign. No.
domestically, I don't think, again, he's worthy of being in there in the names that we mentioned previously.
Well, just quickly to touch upon the players who should have been in, like Van Dijk, for example, I think it's also worth a big mention that season he played with Addison and Kelleher for, equal amounts. He played with Bradley at right back, Trent at right back, Gomez at right back, Gomez at left back, Robertson, Tsimikas, Konate, Quansah, Matip. He was the only sort of stable figure within that Liverpool back line because the rest of them just picked up frequent injuries, had Endo, McAllister in front of him, and he still managed to perform almost like prime Van Dijk for most of the season. It was only sort of the last month or so where he tailed off like the rest of the squad, but yeah, I just think it is absolutely criminal
insanity
how he's just not in the top 30.
It is mental.
Van Dijk not in the top 30 players in the world over the past year.
It's insane. But is there any more names that you think that are in there, but they shouldn't be in there?
This may seem quite controversial because Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal at the Euros, fantastic
Euros, obviously.
Arguably Spain's two best players. I don't think personally, but people will make a fair case for that.
Yeah.
But when you look at their domestic seasons, I think Nico Williams scored 4 or 5 goals, Lamine Yamal the same. I know they're quality players, technically very gifted. They do pose a big threat in behind, no matter who they play. But are we really just sort of giving them a spot within the top 30 due to their performances of their Euros? And don't get me wrong, the pressure's there. Lamine Yamal, 16, scoring goals like that against France. And in a few years' time, he'll be one of the best players on the planet. But his numbers aren't that great, and we just give them the spot because of his age.
Yeah.
When in reality, I know, rightfully so, he's performing well at a young age, but you can't take that away from the players who are older and still putting up a lot better numbers, like Salah, for example, who has put up like quadruple Lamine Yamal's numbers last season, and he's not even included.
Yeah. That I agree with that, to be fair. The amount of names we mentioned that aren't in there and they should be in there is genuinely insane.
I agree. And also, Vitinha is, well, I don't think necessarily he shouldn't be included because technically one of the best midfielders on the planet.
Yeah.
So technically skilled. And I don't watch enough Ligue 1 football to really comment upon his consistency. But from what I've heard about him,
PSG fans might say otherwise. They might believe that he should be in there.
They talk of him as top.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not going to say he shouldn't be in there. But personally, like I said...
Want to be debated.
Yeah. Did he have a better year than McAllister? I don't know. McAllister, fantastic for Argentina, won the Copa America, arguably Liverpool's player of the season.
Yeah.
Produced big moments as well for Liverpool.
Played in multiple different
Argentina
positions as well. Played in that number 6 role, was fantastic there. And then moved on to the number 8 role, was
100%.
fantastic in there. He's played in all sort of the roles in the midfield and has been absolutely exceptional for Liverpool in there. So I think to not have him in there, again,
crazy.
I'm not sure about that. That's the thing. I'm not sure about these Ballon d'Or nominees. I really don't see what they're looking at, to be honest. And it's like a mix of players. Like they pick some on their name.
Yes.
They also pick some on the Euros. Then some of them are picked on the season, and then some are picked on like the trophies, for example.
Yeah.
Like it's a mix.
There's no sort of like
consistency.
fix. Like you could say, it's trophy based, but then Van Dijk won the Carabao Cup. Saliba won
Single-handedly, by the way.
absolutely nothing. Yeah, single-handedly. And you may say, Saliba had a better campaign, but did he have that much of a better campaign that warrants him being in the team over Van Dijk winning this team the Carabao Cup when the Ballon d'Or has largely been involved around what you win?
Yeah.
Well, for example, the players who win the Euros is the greatest achievement of the season, winning the Euros. It's the biggest trophy that the players can possibly win. They're in there because of that, when their domestic seasons weren't exactly stellar.
And Lookman's in it because he single-handedly won a trophy, right?
Yeah.
For Atalanta, right?
So it chops and changes quite regularly.
Van Dijk's not in there, even though he single-handedly won Liverpool trophy
against
Chelsea. Like that, to me, makes no sense. I mean,
I agree.
I don't understand what they're looking at there.
Well, let's move on to what I think should be the actual top 5 of the Ballon d'Or. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go on, let's hear it.
So, I'll start from number 5. A brief explanation. Number 5, I think, should be Wirtz. I think he's produced like 38 goals and assists this season for Leverkusen.
As well.
The catalyst in that team that won the DFB Pokal and the Bundesliga, scored big goals and big moments along the way. And if they would have won the treble, I would have, been tempted to put him above who I put in at number 4. But yeah, such a class act. So technically skilled. And
done multiple videos on him.
Yeah. And there will be more coming soon.
Yeah, definitely, because we've seen how exceptional he is, and we've been analysing it, and he is a fantastic footballer.
Well, he's a brilliant ball carrier, a brilliant finisher, creatively very good as well, turns up in big moments, and I think, like I said, he's a catalyst of that Leverkusen team. In at number 4, I put Mbappe. And like I said, if Wirtz did win the treble, I'd put him above
Our top three is going
Mbappe.
to be the same, I think.
Oh, it's going to be similar?
Yeah.
Or do you reckon exactly the same?
I reckon it's going to be very similar.
Well, me and you generally have quite similar opinions.
Yeah, we do, yeah. But anyway, sorry, carry on about Mbappe.
But yeah, Mbappe, poor Euros. That's what really let him down because for PSG last season in Ligue 1, fantastic. Good in the Champions League as well. A proficient goal scorer. We all know his quality. But at the Euros, where was he? Where was he? He was absolutely nowhere.
He wasn't existent, was he?
No, I don't understand that. A player of his quality, there was no excuse.
Didn't he score like one penalty goal or something?
Something like that. Yeah. One penalty goal the whole tournament.
No goals from open play. That's not good at all when you're the main man for France.
And France didn't have the best tournament, but when they weren't the best in the final, who turned up? Mbappe.
Exactly.
So you've got to be turning up, and a player of his caliber, he's got
we know he's a big
10 years
player.
Experience at the top level now. So you've got to be turning up regularly.
We've seen him turn up in them big games, and for some reason he's not. Well, he hasn't this year, has he? So
maybe the whole Real Madrid saga was on his mind, thinking about where his future lies next season.
But at the end of the day, I think fourth is a respectable place because you're not putting him anywhere near the top. You're not even putting him in the top three, and I think that's an
understandable good Euros place. Could be number one, but yeah. And then in at number 3, I went with Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, that's what I'd go for, yeah.
It's close between...
My top 3 is that, yeah.
What, Bellingham? Well, hang on, you don't know if I've got second and first yet?
Well, I think I know you got first.
Alright, okay. Bellingham, let's just touch on Bellingham a second.
Yeah.
The reason I put Bellingham above Mbappe, for example, I just think first season at Real Madrid, so good. Yeah. Big moments,
He's
big goals.
Isn't he?
Playing in a position that he hasn't really shown that he could play in. Everyone thought he'd be signed as an 8 or play as part of a double pivot, but Ancelotti's been, given Bellingham that freedom to roam into the box, get on the end of crosses, just be the talismanic figure in that
one of
attack.
Their best players. Some would say their best player.
Yeah, so. and I think you can make an argument
it's between
for that.
him and whoever you've put first or second, Vinny Jr.
Okay,
so.
right. So who have you put number 1?
I've put Rodri.
Yes, same. Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Why have you put Rodri at number 1?
I think he is an absolute A-class central defensive midfielder. He is exceptional. The way he picks up the ball, he can pick 100%. Out passes. He's insanely good defensively, and he's also very physical, and he won't let anyone bully him. And I've not seen him put a foot wrong this year. Genuinely, he is an immense central defensive midfielder, and for me, he has to win the Ballon d'Or.
Oh, I agree. I think, this may sound like an unpopular opinion, but I think he was actually better in the 22-23 campaign when City won the treble. But because Haaland and Messi had such good years that it sort of took the limelight away.
Yeah,
but still, he deserves a Ballon d'Or. The greatest DM of the last probably 10 years. I generally believe he's that good. I know he's not as good as Busquets, and Busquets played in the harder era, but
that's the thing.
They share a lot of similar qualities.
Yeah, definitely.
And players like Casemiro, for example, who is a very good ball winner, on the ball.
Yeah.
Rodri's a different class.
And also,
together, isn't he?
Not to mention, he's won the Euros as well. And was absolutely immense in that Euros campaign as well.
For Spain,
one of Spain's
for
best
City.
Players. Again, some would say their best player. Did turn up and score goals as well, Rodri, in the knockout stages.
He's got that clutch mentality, that clutch moment in him.
He's done it for City and Spain, and we've seen him play exceptional
best player
performances.
on the planet this season.
Yeah. Absolutely, I'd agree with that.
Although, who comes in at close second is Vinicius. I suppose you went with him as well.
Yeah.
He is just a big game player. That hat-trick against Barcelona in the Spanish Super Cup final. He missed 3 months of the season, but still finished, I think, top scorer or close to top scorer in the Champions League. Goals in the final. Goals against, I think, was it Bayern in the semis of the quarters?
Yeah.
One of the two. He just turns up in big moments consistently.
Yeah.
And a lot of players move to Real Madrid or they're at the club and they don't really have that knack of
I agree.
scoring in big games or big goals. They crumble under pressure.
Yeah, we've seen it with a lot of players, but Vinicius Jr. does not.
He just has that clutch mentality.
Yeah.
A fantastic season for him. And this is probably another unpopular opinion, but you could definitely argue that he had a better season the season prior or the season prior to that. But still, a class act altogether.
I don't think Rodri will win it though. I would personally put him and win it, but I feel like Vinicius Jr. win it because I think they'll just look at him and he's an attacker, and I think they always favour attackers. It's very rare where they'll give it to a midfielder or a defender, really, especially in the last decade or so.
Was Cannavaro the last defender, I think, to win it?
Yeah.
Modric was Modric's the only player who broke up the Messi and Ronaldo.
Well, exactly, that's the thing. So I hope they give it to Rodri because I do think he genuinely deserves it.
It's always a Real Madrid player.
But
if it's not
that's
Messi.
The thing. Also, a big favour to Real Madrid players and Barcelona players, that calibre of clubs. I'm not saying Man City are like obviously a small club or anything.
But they view it as the pinnacle of football, don't they? And it is to an extent, but sometimes they do take it away from Rodri, who plays for a lesser team.
Well, we've seen them take it away from Lewandowski. That was a joke, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did to Rodri. And I hope they don't, but...
I wouldn't be angered with Vinicius winning it, or even Bellingham. I think they both do deserve it. But
in my opinion, I do think Rodri would be hard done by if he didn't win it.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay.
I do think, because I think Rodri's just been that good, and he's been that good consistently, not even just this year, but for years
that
now.
treble winning season.
The best defensive midfielder in the world for years. By an absolute
he's probably been the best midfielder in the world since 2022.
Yeah.
Because De Bruyne has been good in patches due to injuries. Kroos runs in very close.
Yeah.
Modric has sort of fallen off a cliff.
Well, yeah, Modric wasn't anywhere near as good as he was. So
but,
I have to agree with that.
Number 1.